Well, hello, dear viewers and dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of The Unseen Process of Recruiting with Greg and Michelle, where you find out what happens after you click submit. Today, we have part two of our interview or chat with our lovely colleague, Logan Ansiet. Hi, Logan.
Hey Michelle, how's it going?
It's going really well. Hello there, Greg. How are you?
Hey, Michelle, I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm getting ready for the snowstorm. Are you?
Yep, we're going to have a nice little fireside chat today.
Yes, a lovely fireside chat. And today's chat, dear audience, is how to get IT right. And we're going to show you, we're going to tell you about a little bit about the industry, recruiting in it, best way to put your best foot forward in it, how to be considered, everything you need to know so that you will be a viable candidate. Right, Logan? Right, Greg?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Nice showcase of Logan's knowledge since I'm not big in the IT space and Logan is.
Yeah, yeah. So, Logan, let's talk about IT. It's a field that's growing exponentially, particularly during the pandemic. It has been one of the pandemic resilient industries. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, let's say someone wants to apply for a position in IT. What are your observations and thoughts on the industry right now?
Well, obviously, like you said, it's been very resilient throughout the pandemic. It's not something that really is tethered to a in-person or a person-to-person aspect, at least in most aspects of the industry. You have your few exceptions, so your in-person IT help desk and in-person technical roles. But most of your upper level positions and things that require more of a technical acumen. So your project managers, your business analysts, your developers, all of those can be done remotely. As for people wanting to step into the industry, it's never been easier than now to get your foot in the door. There are so many alternative paths, besides the typical 4-year degree or the typical training that we've seen in the past. Google Coursera, for example, has been coming out with multiple different development courses for different development models. They just came out with one over the summer for project management.
Yes.
And multiple organizations, whether they're banks, whether they're tech-focused companies, have been recognizing these quick courses, these Google courses, these kind of 18 to 20 week boot camps as very similar to a 4-year degree because you can get the same kind of training and acumen out of them. So as for someone who's wanting to get in the industry, it's really about educating yourself on what specific part of the industry you want to get into. I know for a lot of people, the desire is just, I want to be in tech because it makes a lot of money. And I think you really want to get down to the nitty gritty of it and figure out, what aspect of the industry is really going to keep you engaged and interested. Because the last thing you want to do is deep dive into a course that you're just going to be in over your head for something that you don't really want to fully pursue. And you want to make sure that the path you're going to go down is one that's going to be something in tech that is going to continue to expand as well.
Logan, I got a question that you brought up relating to it spurred when you said in-person help desk. Do you find companies are growing their IT departments or are they outsourcing their IT departments more so? And from a candidate standpoint, should they look to work for a company directly or maybe some of these MSPs, which would be a master service provider or an outsourced IT company?
I think when you're getting into the industry, I think you go to work for wherever you can get your foot in the door. A lot of times it's going to be with an MSP. You're going to go through a recruiter. Maybe you'll work for a third party of a third party. It's just whatever you can do to get your experience on the door that your end client was said bank, said tech company, whoever it is. As it comes to, whether they're expanding or, going abroad, I do think, at least in the US, when you're talking about infrastructure, within the tech industry, I think there's expansion to more locations within the United States. So say a financial institution that's been based out of New York or is based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, maybe they're expanding their branches to places that they haven't been before, such as Florida or Texas or Arizona. These are expanding markets. These are places where the taxes are lower. So it's very encouraging for businesses to join on, and they're looking for people who are flexible enough to move every few years, essentially, to travel with them as they're building out their infrastructure at more on-site locations, and kind of move up the ranks as that goes along. I know plenty of people who have started out working as a help desk role and have worked their way up to a different development position that's pretty high up within an organization within just a period of 5 to 6 years, because of the way that they have been able to showcase themselves at multiple locations, move with an organization, and obviously use their transferable soft skills within positions.
Oh, you just mentioned it right there, transferable soft skills. I have a question. Greg, I saw you make a move. You go first.
Yeah, ladies first. I'll let you go.
Oh, great. So let's take the two kinds of candidates that may come to you. The one that is experienced, that has IT background of some sort, and the one that is completely pivoting and going into a new career. What feedback, right, into IT, whether it's software engineering, design, etc. What feedback would you have for those two different types of clients, candidates?
So obviously, going off of somebody who's been in the industry for a while and is trying to get either another role, or they're trying to get back into it maybe after a layoff, or there had been budget cuts and something's happening, or they just want to transition into a different aspect of the industry. Obviously, what's on paper is going to get your resume looked at, but what you say either face to face or over the phone is what's going to get you further down the line in the interview process. Soft skills is probably one of the most important things that you can have, and also communication skills just overall. As someone who's upper level in IT and in technical departments, you're not able to advance yourself as a candidate if you can't communicate clearly to both technical and non-technical team members what you're trying to accomplish and what needs to be done. Obviously that's kind of the role of a lot of different people within an organization. If you're talking about a project manager, that's kind of their point and key, but everybody needs to kind of have some of those skills, obviously, in order to sell themselves as a stellar candidate. If you're walking in with two similar candidates, who have the same background, obviously you're going to go with the one that's able to more clearly communicate what they're trying to do and what their goals are, than the person who isn't so well versed at explaining what their strengths and weaknesses are. And then when you're talking about obviously someone trying to get into the industry, I think obviously building up a repertoire of either back projects or maybe even an internship to get your foot in the door. I know plenty of people, maybe you've been working another career and you want to make that transition. A lot of IT internships are paid. They do value the work that you do, and they want to make sure that that is at least communicated through the payment that you're getting for the opportunity. I would just try to partner yourself with a couple of mentors as well. There are plenty of people out there in the IT industry willing to at least lend a little bit of their time to let you know what their experience has been like, what they see at their organizations, and kind of help people get a foot up. It seems like it's a bit of an obtuse industry if you look at it from 1,000 feet away. Everybody really sees the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks of the world. And that's, at the end of the day, that's not really 100% what everything is about in the tech industry. So much of the startups that you see are very much about just getting some of the best and brightest people they can to work on, ideas that no one would ever think of when it's coming to aspects in tech, none of us can really grasp because it's not our daily focus. People are trying to solve issues and problems that, take a critical aspect and different sets of languages to tackle. So I think the best thing you can do if you are somebody's new to the industry, do your research, partner yourself with people who have the experience that you need, and put yourself out there. Send that message that just says, please tell me more about what you do. Somebody who is good at what they do and appreciates somebody like that will respond and they will help you out.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, I think one of the biggest differences I see with IT backgrounds and technical backgrounds, and I think it goes to the old joke that, you buy a computer, you get home and it's already outdated. What do you suggest for a technical candidate or an IT candidate to get roles where it's a new technology that maybe people haven't been trained on yet, or there's such a limited skill set out there for it? Is it a case of something where it's just transferable from a prior skill set, or, I guess my question more so focuses where they get candidates, or how's a candidate get into some of these new technologies that, were just invented per se?
Yeah, so I think the biggest example that I've seen the past couple of years is Golang as a development language. Golang is a development language developed by Google basically to speed up a lot of their processes. It moves something like 10,000 to 100,000 times quicker than some of the other development languages, simply because of how much Google has in terms of data to process and everything that they need to get done. Obviously, coming from a recruiter standpoint, it's difficult to, sometimes understand as things evolve. But when you're coming from a candidate standpoint and you're also trying to understand these similar aspects and how you're going to adapt and evolve, you want to sign up for programs that do have the latest cutting edge. When you're signing up for a Java development class, you want to make sure it's, Java 8 or, whatever the latest edition is. You want to make sure that whoever you're doing your boot camp with, whoever you are partnering with in terms of mentorship, is helping make you aware of those specific aspects of the industry. If you're in a current role, maybe somewhere you're doing development or somewhere where you're doing project management, something within the IT field, and a new certification comes out that is becoming an industry standard, or you see the industry leading a certain way, you want to get with your employer and ask, hey, is this something that you would sponsor the cost for? It's going to help both me and it's going to help you in terms of the workflow, the productivity, and what we're going to be able to do as an organization. I've seen plenty of clients during my time doing IT recruiting offer to basically reskill or skill up people who had the base qualifications for development or project management or whatever it may be, and basically hire them for a certain role. And then as things were advancing within the next few years, have that promise within their contract there that they'd keep people going. It does become difficult, obviously, within the IT space. It is an industry very much dependent and very much leaning on temporary work, a lot more than a lot of other aspects of the job market. So a big part of this is going to come from basically people doing this on their own and keeping an eye on the market for themselves. So you may not always have that resource, obviously, if you're a temporary worker or if you're jumping from good opportunity to good opportunity, to have the current employer that you're with reskill or help you skill up in that department. At the very least, you need to be keeping an eye for yourself on what the next technology is, what the next certification is. Like I mentioned earlier, there are cheap and kind of easy courses from resources like Google Coursera and some other online platforms that will offer these models and these certifications at a discounted rate that many clients are looking at as very similar, if not the same as a standard 4-year degree. So
you would suggest, this will probably be my, I think the last question on these topics. A lot of times I see clients I do work with when I am working technical jobs, look for certain certifications, and candidates will always ask me, to get that certification, is it worth the investment sometimes out of their own pocket? Would you say for a candidate to try and break into IT, or for a candidate that's in IT and trying to move up, that it would be almost worth it to take the investment out of their pocket to get some of these certifications?
I mean, it's obviously going to depend on each candidate's financial situation. Obviously being in the middle of a pandemic right now, it's put a strain on a lot of people. I don't think anyone should necessarily go into extreme amounts of debt to get themselves skilled up or to, make that transition. Like I said, there are resources out there for those low cost, courses that you can take. And there's also a lot of these, even these low cost courses that are maybe, $50 to $1,000 for the course per class, that also offer kind of your standard financial assistance, much like U.S. colleges offer. So you can look into those resources as well. I think you have to take it on a case-by-case basis as to whether or not it is worth that investment right now. I know for myself during, the pandemic, I've had a lot of people reach out to me who are transitioning from either recruiting jobs, or they were in the IT industry and they were saying, hey, I want to get into, project management, or I want to go from, a C# recruiting or a Java recruiting to Golang or something that's, completely outside the wheelhouse of what they were doing prior. The main thing that I would say in those situations, weigh how much that is going to be worth it versus you continuing to look for a role that's within the wheelhouse that you already know. So if you already have certifications and you already have the development experience and the knowledge from prior roles where you could easily transition into something, and it's just a matter of finding the right fit, it may not be the best time right now to get all of those certifications. But obviously, if you are struggling to find something in your certain niche, because that's what happens often in the technical industry, is that people get into niches and then they have difficulty finding a new role if something like this does come up. Then I think that is the time to obviously dip your toes in or take that leap and make a little bit of an investment, because that $800 to $1,000 investment could lead to a $100K plus salary very easily, if not more.
A lot of information about a topic that's growing by the minute. Another area that seems to be growing, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons, is cybersecurity, right? There's a lot of hacking going on there, but it also proves to be a great area to go into if you're inclined. Thoughts on the cybersecurity industry?
I know from my experience, it was something that was growing even pre-pandemic. Obviously, with everyone being at home, more devices being used constantly throughout the day, it is going to be something that only grows. We'll see how it pans out in terms of the world getting back to a quote-unquote normal state within the next year or so, and people returning to in-office setups where there's better infrastructure and people aren't relying on basically systems where they're logging in to do their work and everything like that. I don't see it going away. I don't see the growth stopping by any means, because we're a more connected society every day. Whether you're talking about the United States or globally, I know there's a bunch of roles that were focused United States wise that are obviously going to move to international as we tend to go more global and continue to be global. Obviously, with the recent election results, things may change depending on the way sanctions are lifted between certain countries that the United States is interacting with. So that may create job opportunities in the cybersecurity space. We just saw last week there may have been further Russian interference with different security systems within the United States. So this is an issue that is literally in the news all the time, and financial institutions, tech companies are consistently worried about it. Besides the fact you have in the tech industry the issue of personal privacy coming up all the time. And when that comes into play, companies are willing to basically pay out an unlimited sum to protect their identity, protect their company reputation. And that's where I think cybersecurity can be a very lucrative, part of the industry to aim for and go into. As for, what certifications and, what training to go for, that's not something that I would really, say do one thing or another. Like I said, do your research, look at what types of companies you want to work for, what types of roles you want to do, and then kind of go from there.
I think it's really interesting with everything going on right now that everyone's talking about cybersecurity, but I also think we're also forgetting some of the physical aspects of technology. A lot of people had stuff sent to their homes to work from home. Probably have a lot of documents still for those paper driven companies. I still think there's a lot of this information out there that kind of falls that information security aspect of, what do we do going forward? How do we monitor to make sure things weren't downloaded off of company computers? And I think you can see a lot of look back and forensics on, things that could go wrong with the work from home.
Yeah, and I think obviously we could get into a forever conversation, especially with the way the United States goes and the way our internet infrastructure is done and everything like that. But I do feel like, at least when it comes to for the IT and technical industry, for better or for worse, tech companies and financial institutions are advancing far faster than public policy can keep up. So that does create a lot of job growth, but they're also therein is going to rely on a lot of different jobs to kind of fill in the gaps of what is going to be the best solutions going forward. So kind of what you were saying, Greg, if somebody was working a role that was very much paper dependent, they've switched to an all digital format, and that digital format becomes compromised. Who is then sought out as responsible? Is that left up to the individual employee? Is that the fault of the portal that they were using as a digital aspect? Is that the employer's fault? That becomes kind of a legal conundrum, as well as something that a maybe cybercrime investigator or a cybersecurity personnel may have to solve. So, this is an endless possibilities for the amount of different tech problems and solutions that we have based on the way the industry is advancing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, we've got about 3 more minutes to go. Goodness gracious, Greg, we could talk about this for weeks.
I mean, technology, technical jobs, they're always interesting because it's such an evolving industry and everything is always growing, and just there's always new ideas coming out, which means there's going to be new jobs and new types of jobs. So, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it. It's just interesting to see so many different angles that you could approach it from and how it relates to even some of the traditional jobs. What
That's exactly right.
security is now cybersecurity. So.
Yeah, well, a few keywords that came out of this episode were reskilling and skilling up, temporary work, right? Cybersecurity, top languages, network. Well, we didn't talk about networking, but this is something that stuck out in my mind. Networking and soft skills. These are critical words to think about when pursuing a career in this field. I can't emphasize it enough, particularly networking, how it's so important to really keep your connections active and stay in touch with them, particularly in this field, right, Logan, right, Greg?
100%. I think anything, and especially for the audience of this podcast and these episodes, it's networking's key.
Networking is key. Well, with that, I guess I'm gonna have to wish you both happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. We'll be back after Christmas, right, Greg?
Yes, we will. We definitely will.
All right.
Yeah, maybe some artificial intelligence and
AI,
which is really nothing more than machine learning right now.
Heavy duty, heavy duty. you know. Well, we're human, folks, so we'll be here, and don't you worry about it. Logan, thank you so much for your knowledge is just so vast. We may have you come back again.
Well, thank you for having me for the 2 episodes thus far. I'd be happy, to talk more if you'll have me.
Bring some other friends along too for some of these other episodes.
That's right. We've got more folks from ACG coming on, talk about some real intriguing topics. Again, we encourage you to, dear listener and dear viewers, apply, apply, apply. This is the time to do it. I've had the pleasure of having clients already secure positions during these last 2 weeks.
This is a great time to start looking for a job.
This is a great time, right, Greg? Right, Logan? So don't give up, and don't listen to what anyone says. Anybody who knows me, I'm always telling you, don't focus on anyone else. Focus on yourself. Okay. Well, thank you, dear viewers. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us, and we'll see you after the holidays. Thank you.
Good holiday.